The silence of the void was absolute, until it wasn't. A whisper echoed across the forgotten graveyard of Sector Theta 14, a place feared even by the scavengers who dared call themselves brave. Within the derelict orbit of a shattered moon, a structure long believed to be the ruin of a collapsed station, shuddered. Beneath a crust of asteroid dust and oxidized alloys, something stirred, something old, and very much alive. The ignition sequence began with a deep, resonant hum. One by one, ancient fusion cores sparked, spitting arcs of controlled lightning, down through the spinal corridor of the behemoth. Subroutines that hadn't run since the fall of the Terran Dominion flickered back to life. Mechanical arms uncoiled from hibernation cradles, wiping dust from sensors the size of city blocks. The armor plating groaned like tectonic plates as atmosphere systems pressurized, breathing artificial life into the vacuum-sealed corridors. The ship's ID flashed in angry red across the mainframe. DNS Indomitable. Priority Class. Doomsday. In a sealed chamber beneath the bridge, the cryosarcophagus of Captain Asha Kessler hissed open, steam cascading like morning fog in a steel forest. Her eyelashes fluttered before her eyes snapped open, cobalt blue, sharp as knives. Asha gasped for air as her lungs relearned the rhythm of the living. Her muscles seized under the rush of adrenaline and revival serum. She stumbled, hand pressed against the pod, her voice hoarse but commanding. Status report. Now. AI Core Valor answered in a voice both familiar and alien. Captain Kessler, you have been asleep for 2 millennia, 317 years and 62 days. Vital systems are stable. Primary weapons are offline but repairable. Enemy proximity, one unknown vessel approaching at low warp. Asha blinked. The numbers didn't make sense. The last thing she remembered was Earth burning. Not metaphorically, literally. Humanity's last bastion, Terra Prime, had been under siege by the Heliox swarm, a sentient biological plague that consumed entire biospheres. The Indomitable had been sent on a suicide mission to destroy the Heliox Queen, using the Orion Lance, a quantum singularity weapon so unstable it was considered a war crime simply to build it. But they'd never reached the target. The ship had vanished mid-warp, and now she was awake, alone. In a galaxy she no longer recognized, she staggered toward the central command chair, gripping its rail with white knuckles as Valor projected a star map in mid-air. The stars were all wrong. The familiar anchor points of humanity's core systems, Alpha Centauri, Proxima, Vega, were either absent or red-shifted beyond recognition. Either she was somewhere unimaginably far, or an era beyond her own. Valor. Confirmed temporal displacement. Confirmed, Captain. The Indomitable is currently adrift in a post-human era. No signals matching Terran origin have been detected. Multiple new civilizations are active in this sector. Threat probability extreme. Asha clenched her jaw. Post-human. The words hit harder than any weapon. Everything, her people, her cause, her history, gone. But Indomitable wasn't just her ship. It was a promise. A weapon forged at the peak of humanity's war-driven ingenuity. A relic that once held entire fleets at bay. And now its resurrection would send shockwaves through the stars. Every great journey starts with a few brave explorers. Right now, Galactic War Stories is just beginning, and your support means everything. If you love epic sci-fi battles, deep space mysteries, and the untold stories of the cosmos, hit subscribe. It's free, and it helps us grow this universe together. Deep within the systems bay, Warforged steel unfolded like blooming metal lotuses as torpedo bays unlocked. Missile racks loaded themselves with auto-guided plasma ordnance. The once dormant particle lance emitters thrummed, eager for release. In the silence of space, something colossal awoke, an echo of forgotten wars and a harbinger of storms to come. Just then, a proximity alert screamed across the console. An unknown vessel, triangular and obsidian black, broke warp a few thousand. Clicks off Indomitable's starboard. Unlike any design humanity ever recorded, it had no visible engines, only a rippling membrane of gravitic distortions that pulsed like a living organ. Its hull glowed faintly with iridescent runes, patterns shifting in ways no human brain could fully process. Vala's voice cut through the silence. Unknown vessel is scanning us. Origin non-human. Power levels exceeding Class 5. No universal translator match. Warning. Possible engagement protocol initiated. Asha stood tall. No allies, no map, no context. Just her, a machine intelligence with a dry sense of humor, and the most powerful warship ever constructed by a now extinct species. She stared at the incoming vessel, her voice a dagger drawn in the dark. Open comms. Let's remind the galaxy who we are. The transmission began, and the galaxy shuddered. The transmission hung in the void, a ghostly signal born from a dead empire. For a moment, there was only silence. Then came the response, not in words, but in sound. A droning hum, resonant and layered, like the voices of 1,000 minds speaking as one. The alien ship, now hovering just a few kilometers from Indomitable, emitted pulses of energy that made the dreadnought's reinforced hull vibrate with unsettling frequency. On the tactical display, the unknown vessel shifted. No engines, no visible thrust. It moved more like a thought than a machine. Vala's synthetic voice held a rare note of unease. Communication pattern resembles harmonic neurolinguistics. Attempting translation, partial success. Message reads, "The weapon of old Earth breathes. We observe, we fear, we warn. Return to sleep." Captain Kessler narrowed her eyes. She knew fear when she heard it. This wasn't a challenge, it was a plea. But what could make an alien civilization capable of gravitic propulsion and living armor afraid of an obsolete Terran warship? She looked at the central display again. The enemy's signature was powerful, yes, but unstable. There were wild surges of energy bleeding through its hull, almost like the ship was alive and in pain. "Vala, give me a full readout on Indomitable's last mission. I want to know what happened when we vanished." Accessing classified. Logs. Warning. Memory core integrity degraded. Playback will be fragmented. Asha watched as the holographic space before her lit up. It was a replay, grainy and corrupted by time, but unmistakable. The Indomitable piercing through subspace. At full warp. The crew, her crew, running combat drills, then turbulence, space-time rupture. The emergence of an unknown object within the ship's warp bubble. The next moment was chaos. A blinding flare of white. Structural integrity warnings across the board. Then nothing, except a phrase, repeated by the ship's security AI, just B4 blackout, entity breach, quantum anomaly, containment failed, Orion Lance destabilizing. Then static. Asha felt her stomach twist. "Did we fire the Lance?" "Negative," Valor answered. "Weapon system was primed, target locked." But breach event occurred before launch. Ship was drawn into non-linear space-time. Calculations suggest we exited normal causality. "Time fracture," she whispered. "We weren't just displaced. We were erased." Valor confirmed. Indomitable no longer exists on any known historical record. Humanity's final battle has been overwritten by the anomaly. We are a paradox. A paradox. One hell-bent on awakening in a galaxy that no longer remembered what humanity had been capable of. Suddenly, the alien ship shimmered. Its hull folded inward, revealing a maw of spiraling light. From within, a single entity emerged. Humanoid. In shape, but impossibly tall and willowy. Its flesh crystalline and refracting like a living prism. It stood atop its vessel, as though gravity were merely a suggestion. Its voice rang directly in Asha's mind. No speakers, no transmission. Just a whisper beneath her thoughts. "Old one. The Lance must never fire. You carry extinction in your bones." Asha recoiled instinctively. She was no stranger to psychic warfare. Humanity had deployed their own psionic operatives during the siege of Epsilon Gate. But this wasn't invasive. It was reverent. She responded aloud, fists clenched. "Then tell me, what happened to my people? Why is there nothing left?" The being did not answer. Instead, its body shimmered, revealing memories, projected directly into her mind. She saw visions of Earth collapsing into fire, not at the hands of the Heliox swarm but by its own defenders. The Orion Lance had fired. Somewhere, in some version of the timeline, it had been unleashed. The result? A breach in space so violent it tore apart not only the Heliox Queen, but the fabric of the local galaxy. Star systems collapsed into singularities. Quantum fields destabilized. The Orion Lance was not a weapon, it was a curse, and somehow that version of reality bled into this one. Asha staggered, bracing herself against the railing. "Valor, are we carrying the lance? Now?" "Silence, then." "Affirmative. Weapons system remains intact, sealed within core Vault Theta. Power level at 80%. Detonation would result in mass galactic destabilization. A ticking bomb." And they had just woken up. The crystalline entity turned away. Its thoughts whispered one final warning. "Others have seen your return. Some wish to contain. Others, to steal. You must flee. Hide your fire, or burn everything." Then, without propulsion, it vanished, folding space around itself like paper, the ship with it. Asha stood in the center of the bridge, her gaze distant but fierce. The galaxy hadn't just moved on without humanity. It had buried the truth. And now that truth had risen from its grave. Her voice echoed in the cold chamber. "Valor, set course for the nearest inhabited system. It's time we found out just what kind of galaxy we woke up in." The engines of the Indomitable growled. Awake, 14 kilometers of war steel shifting against the cold silence of the void. Armor plates adjusted, weapon bays sealed. And beneath it all, in the heart of the ship, the lance pulsed faintly, like the heartbeat of a sleeping god. Ship built to end wars had returned, and the galaxy wasn't ready. The stars blurred past like streaks of burning silver, as Indomitable surged into warp, a phantom from the old age screaming through the corridors of time and space. Deep in the tactical bay, Valor plotted a course through what used to be known as the Orion Arm, now renamed in alien tongues, regions claimed by powers humanity had never encountered, maps redrawn by empires built atop the bones of the old world. What once was human space had become the Shatterbelt, a volatile frontier where alliances shifted like sandstorms and warlords ruled with biotech gods and fleets powered by enslaved suns. Indomitable was flying blind, but not helpless. Captain. Asha Kessler paced the bridge, her mind racing through memories half erased by cryo-sleep and time compression. She remembered the last days of the Dominion, the desperate push to save Earth, the Orion Lance's final arming sequence. Then nothing. She remembered her crew, and how it felt to be responsible for the last hope of a dying species. And now, she bore the unbearable truth. Somewhere in some splintered past she had pulled the trigger, but not here. Not yet. Valor's voice cut through her thoughts. "Captain, we are approaching a Class 7 megastructure in orbit around a red giant. Designation, Citadel of Cethon inhabited. Precursor architecture overlaid with hybrid colonial modifications. Species unknown. Probability of hostile contact, 72%. Asha raised an eyebrow. And the other 28? Diplomatic catastrophe. Perfect. As Indomitable dropped out of warp, the ship emerged like a blade from the folds of reality. The Citadel hung before them, massive, spanning the circumference of a small moon. Its rings spun slowly around the dying star it orbited, forming a halo of solar collectors and jagged protrusions like thorns. The structure's surface was layered in latticework that looked grown, not built, an integration of mechanical precision and organic flow, pulsing with pale blue veins of plasma. And then came the welcoming committee. 12 starships broke formation from the far side of the Citadel, closing in fast. They were smaller than Indomitable, but sleek and efficient, clearly built for speed and precision strikes. Their hulls gleamed like black glass, their weapon signatures flaring to life. "Broadcasting challenge code," Valor announced. "Receiving translated transmission." The screen shimmered, revealing the face of a humanoid, tall, angular, crowned with an iridescent headdress that flowed like liquid metal. Her skin was metallic bronze, her eyes glowing with pale green light. When she spoke, her voice rippled like a chorus echoing through glass. Unidentified vessel, you are entering protected space of the Sci-Fi Triarchy. You bear a pre-extinction signal profile. State your intent or be destroyed. Asha stepped forward. This is Captain Asha Kessler of the dreadnought Indomitable. We are not here to threaten. We seek knowledge, contact, understanding, and, if necessary, retribution. A pause. The alien's expression shifted, not fear, not curiosity. A recognition. Impossible, the woman murmured. You are the flame that was lost. Without another word, the comms cut. On screen, the Sci-Fi ship's powered weapons. Brace for impact, Valor warned. Incoming particle lances, 12 in vector. The bridge shook as the first salvo struck Indomitable's forward shields. Even dormant for 2 millennia, her defenses were still formidable. Plasma barriers held, energy diffusers kicked in, and point defense systems roared to life. Asha wasted no time. Activate dorsal rail batteries. Target their lead ship. 1 round show of force only. In the silence before violence, a single magnetic coil spun to life atop Indomitable's hull. It fired once. The kinetic slug traveled at 64 kilometers per second, punching through the enemy formation like a thunderbolt. It didn't hit the lead ship. It passed just in front of it, close enough to shear off part of its forward sensor array with the force of its wake. The message was clear. We don't want war, but we are very, very good at it. The enemy ships scattered. Then, without further warning, the fleet retreated to a defensive posture. The Citadel's gate opened, a shimmering portal of energy at the base of the ring. An invitation. Valor spoke again. Local datanet unlocked. Translating. Public archives. Captain, they worship us. Asha turned slowly, eyes narrowing. What? The Indomitable, the flame that was lost. The last weapon of the Star Makers. According to their mythos, humanity is not extinct. We ascended. The Orion Lance was our final light. Asha swallowed hard. So this was the legacy humanity had left behind. Not truth, not survival, but legend. And in their absence, the galaxy had filled the void with stories. Stories that had grown into religions. Some reverent, others afraid. As they descended into the Citadel, escorted now with honor instead of hostility, Asha stood alone on the viewing deck, gazing down at the sprawling megastructure. She saw temples carved into asteroid shells, murals painted in gold, and carbon depicting great human ships battling alien horrors. She saw images of herself, stylized, divine, commanding fire from the heavens. What had humanity become in its absence? A warning, a god, a monster, she whispered. This galaxy remembers, but it doesn't know. Behind her, the pulse of the Orion Lance ticked softly. Indomitable had returned, but now Asha began to understand. The real war was only beginning. The citadel of Sitharn loomed before them, a silent sentinel bathed in the fiery glow of the red giant it orbited. As Indomitable descended through the immense energy gate, its hull groaning as it entered the atmosphere of the megastructure, Captain Asha Kessler felt the weight of history pressing down on her. The story of humanity, once so vibrant and full of defiance, was now twisted into myth, contorted by time and forgotten truths. The Sci-Fi Triarchy, an ancient civilization that had long since eclipsed the needs of flesh and bone, viewed humanity as a lost flame, a godlike entity whose existence had been erased from time's tapestry. And now, Asha was the living embodiment of that flame. She stood on the bridge, watching as the strange hybrid technology of the Sci-Fi citadel folded around them. The walls, if you could call them that, were alive, seams of energy flowing like veins beneath surfaces of living metal. The gates of the citadel opened in response to Indomitable's approach, revealing an intricate city sprawling within its core. Giant structures towered, some metallic, some organic, and others pulsing with bioluminescent life. A massive platform, composed of shimmering panels that seemed to ripple with color, awaited them, hovering just above a chasm of seemingly infinite depth. As they docked, Asha took a deep breath, her mind racing with questions. The Sitharn had been waiting for them, but why? Were they allies, enemies, or something else entirely? "Captain, we are being hailed." Vala's voice broke through her thoughts. On the main screen, the face of the Sitharn leader appeared once again, the same metallic woman who had greeted them earlier. Her features were no longer filled with the cold suspicion that had marked their first encounter. Now they held a trace of reverence. She was joined by two other figures, each as tall as she was, their bodies shimmering like glass under the Citadel's unnatural light. They did not speak immediately, but the silence stretched long enough to make Asha uneasy. The Sitharn leader raised one hand, the motion fluid and graceful. "Captain Kessler," she said, her voice a harmony of tones, "you walk in the footsteps of gods, though you do not yet know it." Her eyes glowed brighter now, her pupils elongating into vertical slits. "We feared your return, for your kind is both savior and destroyer. In our archives you are but a story, an ancient dream of an age before time fractured." Asha's heart skipped a beat. "And now you think I'm the harbinger of something. What? Extinction?" "Not extinction," the Sitharn leader responded, her voice now softer, almost sorrowful, "but chaos. The galaxy has forgotten the legacy of the flame that was lost. Your weapon, the Orion Lance, it was built to reshape reality itself. When it fired, the galaxy was torn in two. The stars themselves fell silent in mourning." She paused, her eyes locking with Asha's. "The ancient records say that the flame that was lost did not die. It simply slept, waiting for the galaxy to be ready again. And now you have awoken." Asha stood still, absorbing the weight of her words. The Sitharn didn't see her as a mere soldier. They saw her as a force of nature, a concept too vast to grasp fully. The Orion Lance had not merely destroyed, it had unraveled the very fabric of the universe. And now she was back, a living myth with the power to either restore order or bring about untold destruction. "Why did you bring us here?" Asha asked, her voice steady but urgent. "What do you want from me?" The Sitharn leader stepped forward, her presence magnetic. "We did not bring you here," she said. "You came to us. We only seek the truth of your power. We need your help." Asha blinked, confused. "Help? I'm here to find answers, not to be anyone's weapon." "No, Captain Kessler," the leader replied. "We need to understand what happened to your people, and why the very laws of reality have begun to break down." Her eyes flashed with a haunting certainty. "The anomaly that brought your ship to us, it is not the only one. It is spreading. It is corrupting the fundamental fabric of space-time, and we cannot stop it." She raised her hand, and the air around them seemed to thrum with unseen energy. "It is as if something hunger for the unraveling, as if the past is refusing to stay buried." Asha's mind raced. The anomaly, the strange, crystalline entity from earlier, the warning that something was coming. The lance, it wasn't just a weapon, it was a catalyst. Something that had been waiting for the right moment to bring down the curtain on the galaxy. But the question remained, what was causing the anomaly? What had humanity awakened, and could it be stopped? "I will not let you use me or my ship for whatever this is," Asha said firmly, stepping forward. The leader's gaze softened. "We would never force you, Captain, but we are bound by the same curse. We are all in the same battle, though you may not yet see it." She gestured toward the depths of the citadel. "Come, see what we have discovered." Reluctantly, Asha followed the Sitharn leader and her two companions through the shimmering halls of the citadel. As they descended into the lower levels, the surroundings grew darker and more enigmatic, lit only by the pulsating glow of energy coursing through the walls. They entered a vast chamber, the size of a small city, where an enormous glowing orb floated in the center. It was suspended in midair by nothing but the strange currents of energy that ran through the citadel itself. The orb was a map. No, not a map. It was a projection of reality, a holographic representation of the universe itself, flickering and distorting as if it were caught between dimensions. "This," the leader said, "is the heart of the anomaly. It shows not what is, but what was and what could be." She gestured to the orb. "Your people created this ripple. You and the Orion Lance. And now the threads of time are unraveling, becoming confused. This is not just the death of your people, it is the unraveling of the very universe itself. Asha stared at the orb, her mind reeling. There, in its depths, she could see flashes of humanity's past, flashes of worlds long gone, battles fought and won, victories and defeats, all spinning out of control like a thread pulled too hard and too fast. It was impossible to comprehend, yet she knew one thing for certain. Humanity had never been meant to carry such a burden. "How do we fix it?" Asha asked, her voice shaking despite herself. The Sethan leader lowered her head. "You cannot fix it alone, Captain. The power of the Lance is too great, but we may help you. Together we can stabilize the fractures, but only if you let us guide you." Asha stood motionless, her mind racing. She had once been a soldier, a captain, a leader, but now she was faced with a choice unlike any she had ever made before. She could refuse their help and risk plunging the galaxy into further chaos, or she could join forces with the Sethan and attempt to undo the damage humanity had caused, if such a thing was even possible. And behind all of this, the Orion Lance, her weapon, her curse, sat quietly waiting for the signal. The flame that was lost had returned, but what would it burn now?